I'm Jacqueline Reed from the Library of Locking, and I am here to introduce Todd Long. A lot of you know him. He's a leadership speaker and coach on leadership and strengthening your personal skills to deal with people and employees, and so he is going to teach you his Phase 4 leadership class today. So welcome, Todd.
Thanks. Appreciate it. Yeah. I actually have a handout for you too, so I'll start sending those around so you have that in hand. So thanks for being here. What the heck got you up this early to come to this experience?
I heard you were going to be here.
It's all about me, right? So awesome. Well, thank you. I appreciate you being here very much. I was thinking about, when I think about leadership, I think kind of different scopes of leadership. You know, it kind of starts with ourself and leading about me. Like, how do I, am I self-aware? Do I understand my strengths? Do I understand my weaknesses? Do I understand my tendencies, my personality style? So I think about, leadership development at that level. And then I think about leadership development kind of this next level, kind of more of one-on-one. How do I influence another person around me? Whether it's my kids, or as an employee, or maybe my boss, if I'm influencing somehow up the ladder in essence, or maybe staff around me, but that's more that one-on-one. So you've got me, then kind of the one-on-one, and then it's kind of the team, right? If I'm in charge of a group of people, how do I effectively influence that group of people to move towards a goal or a strategy or a vision? And then you kind of see this play out, right? So then it's about multiple teams. So some people lead several teams, and they have to be in charge of these team leaders. And then it starts to go to this bigger, broader perspective, like an organization or a company. And then we've got communities and states and nations and all the way out. And so today, we're coming back down, right? And it's kind of twofold, because part of it's really going to focus on how do I influence somebody else, more one-on-one relationship, and how do I grow and develop them. That's really where our focus is. But sometimes that takes us understanding ourselves really well in order to effectively lead somebody else and influence somebody else, right? So sometimes there has to be some changes in us for me to effectively help you grow and develop, all right? So here's what I want you to do as we start this off, because I want it to get personal for you. So I want you to think in terms of something that right now you feel like, I'm pretty good at this. I can do this skill or activity pretty darn well. All right? So I want you to think about what that is. And then I also want you to consider what kind of process did you go through from the time you didn't know anything to the point you are now. That make sense? All right. So I'm going to ask you and invite you to share with somebody right next to you. All right, just share that little story with somebody right next to you about something that, I think I'm pretty good at this. Now don't hold back, right? Don't worry about bragging a little bit, but you do something pretty well. All right? And then think about the process. So what is that you do well, and what's the process that you went through? So I want you to share that just partner up with somebody right next to you and have a little conversation. So I'm going to come back to the group here. Who's willing to share your story a little bit about that process or something you feel like you're good at right now and kind of the process you went through to get there? So who's willing to do that in a bigger group? Go for it.
I'll share mine. I don't know that it's very much of an intentional process, but one of my strengths is time management.
Oh, yeah.
I think as you're getting more independent in your life, you just start taking care of your responsibilities, and then it just compounds.
Yeah.
Every day, and so you don't really have a choice but to make sure that you can stay.
Right. All right. So if you broke that down, time management, what would you break it down to? What kind of the core skills to that?
Let's see, knowing deadlines.
Okay.
Situational awareness as far as who reports to you, whether it's your employees or your
Right.
family.
Yep.
And also knowing whether or not you have commitments to other people. If
Okay.
you're the one who's responsible and they're waiting on you.
Yeah. That's good. Anything else in kind of the core skills of that?
Knowing how long it will take you to do certain things.
Oh, yeah. Right. So having a clear understanding or guesstimation of it, understanding that. That's good. Thank you for sharing that. Who else has got one?
I do.
Go for it.
I guess I would be a detail person.
Yeah. Okay.
So, like I proofread everything. I told you if I see something wrong in the newspaper, I would circle. I can't believe they produced that like that. But so I'm just very detailed. I like the QuickBooks thing.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. Now, is it detailed in terms of editing, or is it detailed in terms of organizing? Is it detailed all across?
Yes.
all across. So anything basically, I'm going to get down to the fine-tuned, deep points of that. Can I ask you a follow-up question? Like, when did you kind of discover that was part of who you, like that was just kind of, it sounds like an innate thing, something inside that you're like,
it really is.
Yeah.
I mean, just, just proofing something before you send it.
Right.
Before you hit the send button, I mean, that kind of stuff just drives me crazy.
yeah. Do you remember a time when you thought, oh, this is something that's about me, or has it just kind of been a part of you?
I think it's just a part of me.
Okay, that's good. Yeah. Who's got another one you're willing to share?
Well, I've been networking like the last 5 or 6 years, meeting people, and it just seems like it's something that's good.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now I'm in a position to try and pass that on to someone and try and get them to understand where I can't get them to drink the Kool-Aid.
That's a great example. So let me ask this question. You've been doing it about 5 or 6 years, you said. And I'm guessing that since you shared that, it's something you feel pretty confident with now and pretty good at. What have you discovered are kind of the core skills to it? To build.
Just trying to help people.
That's good. So what I hear in that is maybe the motive for you is to help people. What do you have to do like to build those relationships?
And just try and help them find solutions that, whether it's beneficial to us or
Right.
more so to them, it's just, you go the extra mile to try and help them solve the problem.
That's awesome. That's good. And so can I push you a little bit more or ask another question? So if you think about what do you have to do in order to make that happen, to help somebody solve their problem? Like really literal.
Well, sometimes it's reaching out to other people to connect them to
Yeah.
someone else.
Okay.
Or, going and doing something for them.
Okay.
Get them to that point.
Yeah, that's good. And I'm guessing some of those skills are also just being able to literally introduce yourself, ask questions, listen really well, right? Getting down to some of those core competencies, which sometimes we forget about.
Right.
Like it becomes so natural because you've been doing it for so long, but really to initiate some of that networking, you got to look at somebody in the eye, shake their hand, say hello, right?
Yeah, and it's hard to put that on to somebody else to show them and have them feel confident, because I wasn't confident either.
Yeah.
I'm pretty quiet, pretty shy.
Yeah. What propelled you to say I need to go do this? Like, because there's something that you said I need to go network, right?
Economy.
Oh, right. So there you go. So there was an external factor that I got to go get this skill. I got to go do this to
Yeah,
be effective.
Business and, downturn, you just have to
Yeah.
get out there.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a motivating factor that helped drive that as well. That's good. So let me ask this question. Think about whatever skill you picked. What was some of the, if you could go back and think about what was the process to go from I don't know anything about this to I'm feeling pretty comfortable, pretty confident. What did you have to do? Go for it.
I think I just had to do it over and over and over.
Yep. Absolutely. Repetition. Yep.
Yeah, the more I did it, the more I got confident at it, and then at some point, kind of like Jane was saying, it starts growing, and of course the economy motivates you, so
Yep.
you don't want to be caught in the downturns.
Yeah.
So,
Yep.
and then at one point we had to invest, we had to go way out on a limb. So we had to put a lot of money into the process of going to the next level.
Yeah. So it's talking about business growth and development, right?
Yeah.
Making that happen.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. So repetition, what else helped you get from basically not knowing how to do it to being pretty good at it?
Being around other people that do it well.
Yeah.
Or maybe don't do it well.
Right, so observation, either modeling or not modeling. So that's good. What else helps us grow? And anything, basically, if we're going from I don't know anything to I know something really well, what's the process? What's part of the process?
Making mistakes.
That's a good one, too.
Just making mistakes.
Making mistakes.
Learning.
Yeah. Yeah, learning from it. Actually, I think we probably learn more from that sometimes than we do from getting it right every time.
Yeah.
That makes that happen. So, anything else? What else in the process can you think about? So repetition, making mistakes. We've got the opportunity to model or watch other people. What else helps you get from point A to point B?
I would say understanding where you are in that process. Like
Yes.
how you're growing and what things you benefit from.
Absolutely. Yeah, good self-awareness of where I'm at in the development process. That's really good. Anything else coming up?
Just courage. have to step out and do it.
Boy, isn't that the truth sometimes? Yeah.
Close your eyes and jump.
and it really feels like that, especially when you're doing something brand new. It always feels like there's always a little bit of a risk, right? I'm having to take this next step.
Yeah.
And each time you do that, you feel a little more, you feel uncomfortable,
Yeah.
and then you get comfortable, right?
Yeah, pretty quick.
And then you get a little uncomfortable, and you step out a little further, and it gets comfortable. And you keep doing that process. Well, that's what we're going to talk about really today is this idea of this growth progression. And this is, it's really fascinating. If you look at it, there's a natural growth progression, right? From anything that we start that we don't know to something that we become really good at it. And basically, we can bail out, if the stakes aren't so high, right? Sometimes we can bail out at any point in that growth process. And I can guarantee you there's things in my life that I've thought, oh, I think I'm going to go down this path and develop these skills. And I thought, you know what, this isn't for me. Either I don't want to put the time and energy, it doesn't fit my personality, my strengths, I don't see a future in it, whatever it might be. All right? Or I didn't have a good mentor or a teacher that helped me along the way. I have a clear memory back in college where I went into college thinking, oh, I'm going to be an engineer. All right? So I'm going to take calculus, I'm going to take computer programming, all this stuff because I loved math in high school. I get into my first year of college, I take computer programming 1, I get in there, it's hard, right? It stinks, it's hard. And part of it, I'd done computer programming in high school, I get into here, and the instructor was brilliant, but for whatever reason, didn't translate it to me to help me grow my skills. And so literally, I'm like, this is not what I want to do. I'm in the lab at 2 o'clock in the morning doing this. This isn't fun. I'm not willing to invest the time to keep growing in this. So I transitioned, switched gears, right? To actually something that would fit my personality, my style, my characteristics a whole lot better. Right? So there's part of those things in us, like you were talking about, that are innate. There are some innate things and strengths that we can leverage and use in those things we're developing and growing in. Right? And there's other things that are more difficult, that aren't as innate, are more challenging as we go through that process. And so what we've identified is this truth here. I call people develop new abilities over time and through identifiable phase progression. So what I want to do is I want to talk about that phase progression, and then I want you to think about this phase progression in terms of yourself and then the people around you. All right? So you were talking about translating those skills of networking to somebody else, so thinking in terms of where is that person in that phase development, and where are you at in that phase development, right? And that's important to understand both those things because this model works for our own personal development and seeing ourselves in growth process. It also works for if I'm helping somebody else back to that one-on-one leadership to help grow them up. Okay? So there's 2 things that we can look at. I call it the growth factors that we can look at. And it's pretty simple. We kind of know these things probably intuitively if I'd ask. But one is ability, right? That's pretty obvious. Right? And the ability is how well a person performs a skill or completes a task. How good am I at, hammering that nail into the piece of wood? Or using the screwdriver and putting the screw into the piece of wood? All right? How good am I at approaching somebody, back to your example, that I don't know, looking them in the eyes and saying hello and starting a meaningful conversation? How effective am I at, looking at the details and being able to spot all the fine points and making sure they're accurate before I send the information out? Complete the task. So it's how well a person performs at that. And this is the truth, I'll call it truth also. People learn new abilities at different paces. Okay? It's one of those duh, but it's also important to remember, especially if you're leading multiple people and helping multiple people grow in a similar skill, and if we come with the expectation, oh, person A and person B, I'm teaching them the same thing, they should be progressing at the same rate. Well, that's not true. You'll see person A maybe accelerate farther than person B. Right? And so being able to recognize each person is going to develop at a different rate. I think it's important to understand this in this process, particularly when we think about abilities. Now, the other part of this is this second piece of this growth factor is the emotional state. Okay? And basically, it's how a person feels, responds in the moment, at different moments as they're going through this growth process. What's my emotional state? And I'm pretty confident this is almost as powerful or more powerful to the learning process than just learning the abilities. Because if I'll call it positive emotional state is low, right, it's very difficult for me to then begin to grasp the abilities and skills that I need to progress through and grow in it. Because if I have a fear
or concerned or anxiety, I'm not as open to then the growth process. Right? It's very difficult until I can move through that at some level and have the confidence, like you talked about, to say, I'm going to take that risk. I'm going to move that out, because every time we move through the process and the growth process, it's a risk. And it's uncomfortable, so there's going to be some level of emotional state that happens. Right? So here's the truth with this one. People have different emotional responses through the process of developing new abilities, right? Have different responses in that. One of my jobs, we were talking about it in our little conversation, one of my jobs in my early actually went throughout my career, is I did outdoor challenge course facilitation. Right? So I'd take groups and teams outside, take them through these different challenges to help them learn leadership and team development skills. And one of the skills that I learned was to take people up on these high ropes courses. So we'd take them up 25, 35 feet, put harnesses and helmets on, climb up there, freak people out, and teach them how to work together. Right? Anybody been on one of those before? So you've been on one of those. You kind of know the experience, right? Yeah. And I mean, we were talking about my own personal growth development from my first time I did it, freaking scared, right? Me as a facilitator to the point where I was like really confident. It didn't bother me whatsoever to climb up there, take folks up there, lead groups, do all those kinds of things. But I could definitely see the different emotional responses. That was a great environment to watch that happen. Because you had some participants who were like, yeah, let's go, woo, this is a lot of fun, and excited about it. Let's just jump up there, male, female, it didn't really matter, different levels. Then you saw other people were literally freaked out, right? I mean, literally could not move because they were so scared. And obviously we're in an environment and in a condition that is really challenging, right? And at a high emotional state, right? But you could clearly see it. So we're all going to respond in different ways to these different, as we develop through these skills. Believe that? You can probably reflect back on your life and think, oh, I remember trying to learn that new thing and think about my emotional state. So let's look at these two factors together and look at this phase progression. Right? And you can see this in your handout. You can follow along there. I'll work through this. And so basically, there's several different models out there that talk about growth development. I've kind of put those together to say, here's a framework and a picture of how people work through this growth process to help us to be aware of when we're looking at those two factors of ability, and then I'm going to call it positive emotional state. Okay? So we could have low positive emotional state or high positive emotional state. So when you think about a high positive emotional state, what words come to mind? So help me out here. What's high positive emotional state? What are some emotional words that you could say? Yeah, that's a high positive emotional state. Excited. What else? Say again. Happy. Yep. What else? What other? Eager. Yep. That's a good one. What else? You're really good at something. You get to go do it. What's the emotional state of that? It's a hard one. But yeah, we gotta recognize it. So a high positive emotional state, probably confident and comfortable, secure. All right? Think about all those words in terms of high emotional state. Now think about the low emotional state. That's probably easier. All right, what comes to mind there? Fear. Yeah, I'm afraid. I'm terrified. Yeah. What else comes to mind? That's probably the biggest one, right? Any other words come to mind when you have a low? Dread. Yeah. That's a good one too. Yeah. I just don't even want to do this. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. That anxiety, that fear, sometimes even confusion. I don't understand this. It's a low emotional state as well. So this process takes place over time and experience. Right? That makes sense also. Right? So we go through this process. So I'm going to identify these 4 phases and walk through them. So the first one I'm going to call novice. And I use the word restrained. I'll talk about why I use that word restrained. And the novice phase, we can see that a person in this model has what's their ability level? It's absolutely low. Right? And their positive emotional state is actually low also. Okay? Now I'm going to define the novice as a person who is considering whether or not they want to actually learn this new skill. Right? They're in that consideration phase. So you can watch this. Anybody have kids here? All right? You have kids, if you ask them to do something they've never done before, then they're actually processing and considering, do I really want to do that? All right? Do I really want to invest my time and energy into that? Or even employees, when you ask them to do something, they may feel a little more uncomfortable. They're probably not going to come out and say that. A child will go, no, I'm not doing that, right? An employee will maybe non-verbally give you some clues to say, I'm uncomfortable with that. Right? They're probably not going to tell you, no, I don't really want to do that, because you're the boss and you've told them to do that. So they're probably more likely to kind of push through that. But the truth of the matter, there's always this place where I'm considering whether I even want to learn it or not learn it. So my abilities in this case are obviously low. And here's the positive emotional state is low because it's either scared or feared, like you talked about, right, which is low positive emotional state. Or maybe there's some excitement, like, oh yeah, I would really like to learn that, but it's not grounded, right? It's like, yeah, I really want to do that, but I have no idea what I'm getting into. So your emotional state is actually, there's some excitement there, but it's not grounded in the reality of what you're going to have to do to learn the skill. So that's the novice stage, where it's basically I'm considering, do I want to do this or not? And I believe everybody goes through that process of, do I want to do this or not? Then we go to this next phase, which is the apprentice. And we all get this, right? We've seen enough movies in life where we see the apprentice go alongside the knight and grow up the skills to become that knight themselves. Or it actually, that apprentice model, I mean, you see it throughout history where somebody basically comes along somebody else and teaches them the trade, teaches them the skill. So in this case, there's a lot of growth and development happening here. Now, can you imagine what's the ability level that somebody has in this phase? What's that? Medium. Yeah, medium. That's a good word. Yeah. What else is happening here in their abilities? Think about their abilities. They're getting better. Yeah, hopefully, right? That's the whole process. Hopefully from the beginning of this to towards the end of it, their abilities are getting better. Now think about this in the emotional state, all right? What do you know about in this apprentice phase about the emotional state? What's happening here?
Gaining some confidence.
So a little bit of confidence is going up. What else is happening? Think about it.
Courage.
What's that?
A
A little bit more courage is happening. Yeah. What are the different emotions that somebody's going to go through in this place? Yeah, there's still some of that going on. Yeah. What are you going to add?
They could be excited because they're developing.
Absolutely. Yeah. There's those moments of excitement. What were you going to add?
Just some frustration at
Yep.
some things that didn't quite work out.
Yep. Absolutely. And I think in this phase, there's a lot of that going on. It's like I get a little victory, then it's like, oh man, that stinks. That wasn't as easy as I thought it was going to be. Then I get a little bit of victory. It's like, okay, I'll get right back in there, and then it drops down again. And I think that emotional state is going up and down and all over the place. You know, particularly if it's really difficult to learn for somebody. Right? Now, if it's coming easy, all right, then it's like, boom, I got this, no problem. We're moving through it a lot quicker. Right? It goes back to we progress at different rates. Our emotional state's going to be different. All right, so we got to get through this apprentice stage, and then we get to this place called a contributor. Right? I'm functional. I can do the job. I can go to effectively network, with other people and build those relationships. You do web development work, right? So I can effectively, work with a client to create a web page and develop that. All right. I can effectively do this role and job without a whole lot of help. All right. So we see our ability here is pretty strong. Now emotional state is pretty high too. That positive emotional state is pretty high. Now there could be a couple setbacks. A new nuance to what happens could drop us back a little bit. But generally I'm feeling pretty good about this. All right. So I want you to pause for a second. This is where I think most people get in our world. We get to a pretty high level of contributor. Right? I think we learn some skills, we get pretty good at them, we're pretty functional at them, and that's kind of where we stop. I think there's a fourth, I believe this, that there's a fourth phase that we get to in certain areas of our life. Right? And we have the opportunity to do that. Right? And what I've identified is the expert, and it's where you feel completely free and confident in your abilities and skills at what you're doing. Right? So, and it's the person that gets so good at something and so proficient at it, it just becomes second nature, and they almost become a creator. Right? If they can go, oh wow, if I do this and this, and then they can make up new things, and then create new things, and think of things in brand new ways that they've never thought of. Right? And we all know experts out there. We see them. And we go, oh, that person, they're an expert. You can just see it. Right? In sports, it's you can see it all over the place. When you have the experts that are in sports, we see those because they're just big and bold, and you see them out in public, right? And there's people probably in your world, whatever world you're in, and go, man, that person, they know how to do this so well in that particular area. Now, here's the other thing to consider in this process. All right? I might be good at one thing and really great at it. but there's a lot of stuff that I don't know how to do. And I'm back to novice or apprentice or way back here. And there's a lot of stuff I'm pretty darn good at it, right? And there's probably even things in your own job. If you try to break down all the things in your job, there's probably some things that you're pretty strong, you're a contributor in it, and there's some things that maybe you're an expert in it, there's some things you're an apprentice in it. So there's multiple things that you have that you're actually at different development levels in the process. I look at myself and like my accounting stuff for my business, right? I'm a contributor, a low contributor. I can do it, I can manage it, I understand it, but I don't get excited about it, and I'm not sitting around thinking about brand new spreadsheets, to monitor my money and get tracked, track all that stuff. That is not me, all right? Now, you get me in front of a classroom like this setting, love it, right? This is my environment. I love doing it, have a blast with it, enjoy it. It's a lot of fun. So you can see the different skill sets. Let's pause for a second. So what thoughts or questions are stirring in your mind at this point? I want to live in the 4 zone. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, with as many things as you can to do your job probably, right? Yeah, and finding those places. Yeah. Have you identified a place that you're number 4 zone?
Yeah.
Can you identify that? Good. Can you identify places you're 3 or 2?
Yeah.
Good. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the important part, recognizing that. What other comments or thoughts? Yeah.
As you think about yourself and the things that you're a 3 or a 2, and you really you're not excited or passionate about those things.
Right.
Do you continue to pour energy and time into those things, or do you find another way?
That's a great question. I'm going to throw it back to you. What do you think? I'm going to throw the question back to you and just out of pure curiosity, what do you think the answer to that question is?
What do I think the answer
Yeah, what do you think the answer is?
Probably finding somebody else to do it.
Yeah. I mean, that's, if you can find that, right? If you have the people,
Do that,
right?
exactly,
Yeah. No, I think you're absolutely right. If you have the ability to find other people that can do those things that you're not so good at, I think that's great.
Yeah.
We were talking about web development, social media stuff as we got started, right? It's like in my business, I started trying to do that myself, and I was an apprentice right in here. I didn't have the time, energy. I'm curious about it, but I don't do it, so I had to find someone to help me do it. All right. We want to keep our emotion. Yeah.
I want to stay over there number 4 all the time. I really don't even want to mess with it.
Yeah. Well, and this is actually really good as far as for yourself, but also developing the people around us is trying to leverage their strengths versus constantly trying to develop somebody's weaknesses. And there's a lot of theory out there and stuff about strength, focus on people's strengths and bring the best out of people in that area versus always focusing on weaknesses. And unfortunately, a lot of businesses, when we're doing performance review time, it's always like, well, what are our weaknesses, right? And I get like we got to take time to identify and develop areas, but sometimes if there's things that it's like it's just not in my realm of something I'm ever going to get that great at. Sometimes we have to go, you know what? It's probably okay. Let's find some things that you want to excel at and do really, really well, right? And maybe stop putting our energy towards those things that, man, this isn't my thing. Right? Now, what's the truth about that, though, sometimes in work, right? In small businesses, you got to do it anyway, right? You got to find a way to go make it happen, right? And so I get that, too, right? There's some things. But it's also recognizing, okay, this is why it's more of a struggle, because it's not in my strengths. And for now, I got to suck it up and do what I got to do to get through that. At some point, maybe I can find someone to help me to do that as well. Make it through that. It's a good question. Yeah. Has anybody ever done Strength Finders book? This is a little side note. There's a tool called Strength Finders. It's actually great because it's fairly affordable. You can go online and buy a Strengths Finders book, and it's an online assessment. It will identify 5 of your strengths, kind of 5 of your top strengths. I think you can pay more to get all 34 strengths kind of in alignment. But it's actually a tool for self-recognition about what are my strengths, what are the areas that I'm best at. And within that, there's a great story. It talks about Rudy. Rudy, the football Notre Dame football story player. Everybody heard about, he works really, really hard. Finally he gets his moment of glory and, celebration. But the author of Strength Finders, I love it because he talks about Rudy. He says, what if Rudy would have played to his strengths? Think how much time and energy he put into trying to do something that it wasn't really his strength, right? I mean, he had his glory moment. He fulfilled the dream, right? Which is great stories about, competitiveness and passion and doing those hard things and all that, right? It could, yeah. I mean, think about that. If he would have put all that energy. Yep. Yeah. It was beyond that moment. There wasn't much. So I think about that. Let's put our energy and time towards things. Right. Yeah. There you go. I love that. That's a great statement. That's a great statement. A lifetime victory as opposed to a 30-second victory. All right. So let's use the bicycle example. I'll use this one more. This one I think everybody can relate to, moving through the process. We go from this to that. So we've got the novice, right? They're on the training wheels. They're like, oh, Dad, I think I'm going to take the training wheels off, right? And it's like, I don't know if I want to do this or not. I've got a 5-year-old son right in this spot. He's like, I think I want to do it, but I'm not sure when it comes down to actually practicing it, all right? And then we get to the point where, okay, I'm developing. I can make this happen, right? I can work my way through this. And then finally we become, most of us are probably, everybody ride a bike. It's like, we can do it. We're functional at it, right? We can get on the bike. We can go for a little ride. We can come on back. And then there's those folks that are this, right? Anybody have friends that are into bicycling? Yeah, and what do they talk about all the time? Bicycling. Yeah, they're talking about their routes. They're talking about their equipment. They're talking about buying something new, right? Because that's their thing, right? Aliens. That could be the problem with the expert, right? It's like no one else wants to hear it on that. All right, so I like that example because it helps just kind of work our way through a practical understanding of something we all can relate to. So I put down practice here, and I want you to practice this with me. Okay. So I want to go back to this picture so we can help think about this. I'm going to take a couple notes on the board as I ask this question. But think about the follower, all right, in each of these phases, and you might think about in terms of yourself. Make sure I'm on time here. Think about yourself, okay, in this and the follower, and as much as possible, kind of think real life scenario. All right. So think about the novice, right, and what's the novice? A couple markers here. What are some words or phrases the novice is saying to themselves or to those around them? All right, think about ability, think about emotional state. Yep. Exactly. Not sure can, I'll put this can or want, right? Not sure I can, not sure I want to do it. Yeah. Then we go to the apprentice. Just let me get my colors right here. And what's the apprentice saying? I think I can, yeah. I think I can. And what was the other phrase you said? Not so bad. Yeah. This is hard. Yep.
Let's try it. If we don't get hurt, we'll do it again.
Let's try. I'm going to put like if okay. Do it again.
Tell him when you know you're riding your bicycle down a real steep hill. Oh, that was fun.
Yeah. Let's try. I think I'm ready to go out there and try it again to see this little victory. Yeah. And then we've got the contributor. What's the contributor saying? This is how you do it. What else is the contributor saying? I did it. All we have to do is read the little engine that could. And we've got this down, right? Perfect. What else is the contributor saying? I'll show you. Yeah. Which is interesting. because you think about the progress of this, oftentimes when we get good at something, we want to tell somebody else how to do it, or at least we're in a position to do that. Now, whether we have the ability to teach somebody how to do that well or not is another question, but at least we have a desire. Oftentimes we'll have a desire, hey, let me show you something. All right. What else is a contributor that's moving towards the higher end of contributor thinking about? What are they saying to themselves? Yeah. Maybe I can do better. And there's another book called Drive. Have you ever heard of Drive? This book out there. It talks about one of the factors for motivation is mastery. All right? But if we have a huge desire to master something and get just proficient and really good at it, that's a driving factor. If I have that thing, it's like, I want to get even better at this. I want to go even beyond what I'm at right now. That's a motivating factor that says, I want to move now to this, at least attempt to try to get to this next place of being an expert. Now, what's the expert saying? Yeah. I'm there. I'm pro. Yeah, it depends on their cockiness or or humility, right? How that comes out. But yeah, there's those feelings of that. So what else are they saying over here? This is awesome. Yep. This is awesome. Yep. Oh, that's a good one. Yeah. And say more about ask me. I think I'm interpreting what you're saying there, but say more about what you're thinking.
Ask me about how I got here and how you did get here.
Yeah, I'd love to share that with you, possibly. Yeah, to be the expert. This is great. I love the phrases because these are indicators to help us recognize where we're at, or if we're helping develop somebody else, we can recognize what are they saying either verbally or non-verbally to give us a clue about where they're at in the process. All right. Now, we can't just leave it here, right? Because this is just recognizing the development process, but how can you as an influencer or a leader help somebody move through this process effectively? Okay? And so that's where we're going to go next is go, how can we effectively move somebody through this process so they can get to maybe at least the contributor, maybe even the expert phase, and through that process. So there's two behaviors that we're going to look at here. That we can look about. The leader's going to come alongside the follower, if you will, if I can use those words, all right, to help them grow and develop. Now, let me pause for a second back here. I believe that if we're fairly motivated, we're probably going to move through this on our own, all right, without the help of, I think there's probably areas of our lives that we can go, you know what, pretty motivated, I learned on my own, I kind of worked through that process, all right? And there's probably, I know there's areas for me that I worked through this process where I had somebody alongside me that accelerated that process. That if they're really good at helping people move through this, which is what we're going to talk about, to help people move this, then you move people through this even quicker. All right. So, two behaviors we're going to look at here is one is support behaviors. Okay, what are the behaviors that can do that? And the second factor is I'll call guidance behaviors. Okay. Now, intuitively, without looking ahead in the handout, what comes to mind when you think about support behaviors? Encouragement, absolutely. Listening. You guys are good at this. See, I don't have to. Intuitively, we know this, right? They're experts at this, right? So listening, right? Encouragement. Yeah, those are support behaviors. And then what's guidance behaviors? What do you know about guidance behaviors? I'm gonna give you a plan. Yep. What else? Demonstrate. Yeah, that's perfect. Yep. Here's how you do it. Let me show you how it's done. All right. Yeah, absolutely. Y'all know this stuff already. So let me go into a little bit deeper on this. So supportive behaviors, I use the word LEAP just to help us remember this. All right, L-E-A-P to help us remember. So listen. I think this is one of the most powerful supportive behaviors because if you look at across the board, particularly here when you have a positive emotional state, all right, you think about that novice. What do they need? Often they need someone just to listen to them, right? To come in and say, what's going on? What's happening? I can see you're a little nervous about this or unsure of it. And really, really effectively listening. Second one here is encouragement, which to be an encourager, to inspire with courage or confidence, to be the one that says, I know you can do this. I know it looks tough and challenging and difficult, but I know you can do this. All right? And then we have this other, I think this is another powerful tool, is asking questions. I think this is one of the powerful tools of supportive behaviors, is simply going, what's going on? How are you feeling about this? Where are your abilities right now? Or how do you assess your own abilities? To help people, support them through this process. And the last one is just the idea of praise. Right? To express approval or admiration. And I like to distinguish between encouragement and praise. Encouragement is somebody really hasn't done it yet, and you're saying, you can do it. Praise is like, wow, look at what you just did. That's awesome. Now let's do it again, and let's help you get even better at this. All right, so you got praise and encouragement working together there as well. But oftentimes what happens is, go back to our emotional state here, it's being intuitive enough to go, which of these tools do I need to bring into play at the right time? Okay? And this is just on the supportive side. We still got to go to the guidance behaviors. All right? So let's look at this little model here. And this one just gives us a way to framework to think about this for a second. So if we're intuitive enough to pause and recognize the people we're developing, so we pause, and we see their emotional state. Okay, back to our development process, those phases. That emotional state, if that emotional state has low positive emotional state, right, remember what we said those words were? Discouraged, scared, anxious, some of those words. If that is low, it tells me they need some support, right? All right? They need support behaviors. So listen, encourage, ask question, and praise. All right? That says engage there, which is what we need to do. We need to engage with those right skills. Okay? So our emotional state is going to tell us to what extent do we need to bring our, what extent do we need to bring those supportive behaviors. Is clicking? Making sense? So again, if we're looking at that emotional state, if it's a low positive emotional state, we're probably going to have to bring a greater amount of these supportive behaviors of listening, encouraging, asking questions, and bringing praise. This is probably a lifetime of learning, these 4 skills, and knowing them the right time to use those skills. Because I could have a person who's over here novice, and they're sitting there frustrated, confused, not sure, and we're sitting there going, you can do it, come on, make it happen. Right? Is that going to be the right supportive behavior? Not necessarily. They probably need somebody to go, what's going on? Ask a good question. Empathize and listen really well to help them move out of that phase into the next one to go, okay, I get that. That's tough. All right? Let's see if we can find a way to make this, help you get through this. So that's the side of the idea of supportive behaviors. So let's look at the other side, the guidance behaviors, which I identified already. But I'm going to give you, I use the risk here. This is a reminder, it's a risk for us to move through each of these phases. So the first one is roadmap. So it's a clear plan. Jacqueline, like you said, we create a clear plan for somebody to follow to help them build those skills. All right? And if I can have that clear plan of development in front of somebody, and even written down, and step-by-step process, I can help somebody in those early phases move through this process even quicker. And then I can provide immediate feedback. Right? If I'm not getting feedback and I'm not understanding my performance of how I'm, as a follower, learning these skills, then I'm going to be lost. I need feedback, how to make it better, and even encouragement about what's going well. And I need that soon. Skill development. Right? I need to provide, as you said earlier, you said repetition. I need opportunities to experience this over and over again at the right time and the right place. And the last one is just sometimes it's just knowledge transfer. I need to know how to do this. Transfer that knowledge. Now, there's no particular order to these. They come at different orders, but there's things to look at as far as how can I give the right guidance to move somebody through this process. And this is pretty intuitive in some ways, but I think oftentimes the better we can get at bringing the specific guidance, particularly with somebody in these early phases, the more effective we can help them move through that process. I had a great boss early in my career. I was doing facilitation and training, and she would sit and watch me facilitate. And afterwards, we would sit down and have a coaching conversation. And she was brilliant at bringing both the support behaviors and both the guidance behaviors, right? In a timely manner, in a way that said, here's what you can work on. Here's the things that you're doing really well. Man, and I owe a huge debt of gratitude to her. Because without her, at that point, I know my development wouldn't have gone as fast. Because I can look at points in my career where I knew I needed somebody to do that, and I didn't have that, and I recognized how much I lagged behind because I didn't have somebody providing this leader engagement. I felt like I was out there on my own, just trying to develop and figure it out and understand it. All right. So here's the pause. We look at the ability. We see what's the ability of somebody, and then we can begin to engage. Do I need to create a roadmap? Do I need to bring immediate feedback, skill development, knowledge transfer? Which of those pieces I have to work with? Here's where it gets complicated, right? Because this is an art form, and there's some of this stuff where it all comes together. We've got our phases, and here's where the leader comes up underneath the follower in this picture and provides the right support and the right guidance throughout this process. All right? And this has to continually change and evolve in order to help the follower progress through this effectively. And so as we see early on in the novice and restraint area, all right, that support and guidance, all right, is high in many ways, but it's a shorter amount of time. Okay? Bringing high support, high guidance. And then as it progresses through, as you can see the next phase under the apprentice phase where it opens up a little bit and gets larger here, that's a time where there's still a lot of guidance, a lot of support, and it's ebbing and flowing because we said their ability is continuing to grow, but they still need a lot of emotional support in that process. And that's where there's a lot more energy and time that you need as a leader to put into somebody else as a follower in that particular area. What happens if you don't give that time and attention? They get stuck. That's a great way to put it. They get stuck. Yeah, they get stuck. And they might bail out of the process. All right? Or they won't progress as fast. And then as you see, you get to the contributor phase, you start to limit that engagement until finally you get to the expert stage where it's almost like, hey, they're on their own. They can go do it. All right. What questions or comments do you have about this? So let's practice then a little bit. Let's do another practice thing. We'll pop back to this model. We'll work off our follower here and think in terms of what do they need? What's a novice? This is what they're saying, right? Can I do this? I'm not sure. I'm not sure if I can or I want to do this. So in the novice, what are they asking? What are they really asking for from the leader here? Yeah. They're asking, give me reasons why I should do this, and they're asking, help me get the confidence, right, to move into this next phase. All right. What else do they ask? What's a follower asking for here? Expectation. Absolutely. So reasons, they're wanting confidence to do this, and what are the expectations if I'm going to take on this new thing? What do I really have to do? All right. So then think about the leader now. They're asking for, this is what they're saying to themselves, maybe externally also. This is what they're really asking for. So what's a leader then? Think about our engagement tools. All right. Our leap and our risk. Where are we going to, which of those are we using more of at this point? Yep, we're using much more supportive behaviors in this early phase. All right, so we're bringing a higher level of support because they're questioning, they're asking for these things, all right, and they need some reassurance. All right, I bring it in there. And I can imagine that there's a lot of listening and a lot of asking questions from a leader in this place. And a little bit of like, hey, I think you can do this. Is there any praise going on here? Probably not, because they haven't done anything. Remember, this is the consideration phase. You can't really praise them for anything. They haven't really moved forward in it. All right? Until they start getting to the place where they go to the apprentice phase over here, right? And they said, I'm willing, I'm going to learn. So what are they asking for here? Yep. Boom. tools, more direction, encouragement. Anything else that's coming to mind? I'm going to use this phrase, kind of be here. Oh, there you go. I like that. Yeah. I want to know that you're with me in this process. I think the most effective leaders, when you're really developing somebody, you can look back in your life and say, yep, that person was right there with me. They were really trying to help grow and develop me. So then think about our leadership tools. Back to our leap or our risk, what leadership tools then are we bringing here? The roadmap. Yeah, a roadmap is a great tool. Yeah, absolutely. So we're bringing that roadmap. What else are we doing? Bringing the feedback. Yep. Keep going. What else is showing up here? Was that? Knowledge. Yeah, we got to get some knowledge transfer. So a lot more guidance starts to happen here. Now, remember we said this is hard. There's going to be a place for that. Let's try it again. So we still need some of those support behaviors as well that are going to start to show up. So we have to recognize that there's going to be some emotional state that you got to go, okay, wait a minute. I can't just bring the guidance and knowledge. As a matter of fact, like I said earlier, if I haven't worked through that emotional state, right, and I'm just trying to tell them what to do, then they may not be receptive to it. I have to work through that. Okay. Let's jump to the contributor. Boom. Let's go here. What are they asking for now? Yep. That's a great way. Praise.
To be kind of a sounding board, not need to walk quite so close, but need to know you're there if I have questions.
Yep. Praise. I need to know you're here in case I have a question. That's really good. So then go back to our leadership tools. What's happening here then? What are we bringing? A lot more support. Now think about this. This is where it's tricky. The support here is different than the support here. All right? The support here is like you just said, it's praise. All right? That's what else are we doing over here in the support? Bringing some encouragement. Yeah, look what you've done. Man, I'm really proud of you. All right? And keep going. One of the things to consider over here also is the questions that we ask. Okay? They're starting to change. Okay? Questions over here might be more questions around the emotional state, how well you're doing, what things you're learning. Over here, it's helping them think through how they can even get better. They've got enough knowledge and skills that you're asking questions to draw out of them what they know and what they understand. All right? And helping them think through it to continue to move them forward. So let's go to our last one. So what's the person saying here to themselves? Or what are they asking for? Not much, right. Not much. That's really good. Not much. They don't need a whole lot. Get out of my way. Let me go do this. I'm great at it. I'm confident at it. Here I go, right? They might be saying, what's next? All right? So they might be looking for that next thing to go back to a novice at and work their way through. That's really it. So then go back to the leader skills. What's the leader going to do here? If they're saying not much, what's next? What's that? Let them go. In that particular area, right? Because they might have another responsibility that they're still a novice or apprentice in. Right? So I can let you go in this particular area, but I still need to help and grow you in this particular area. And eventually, we get those employees, right, that are really great. They got a whole bunch of stuff that they're a contributor or an expert in. They got a whole bunch, so you're really confident to let them go a lot more. All right? But it's always be careful in this process of recognizing, connecting the person to the skill that they're trying to develop. All right? Because you can have a high performer that's really good at a bunch of stuff, and you give them a new skill, new task, and you haven't really assessed where they're at. And we make the assumption sometimes, well, they're good at this, so they must be good at that. And then we kind of let them go, and then they possibly fail. Making sense? can you, hopefully this is a yes question answer. Can you find a way to apply this? All right, so my challenge for you is to take a second and write a little note to yourself of where can you apply this stuff, as we kind of wrap this session up and go, where is a very specific area that I can go apply this in my world? Because I don't want you walking out of here unless you can figure out a way to go apply this, because then it's a waste of your time. All right. So I'm going to give you like a minute to write down a little note to yourself, where can I actually go apply this? Oh, yeah. Yep. That's great.
Some are novices, but they trust me.
Yep.
Some are developing, just need some encouragement, some follow-up. And then the contributor, they're just naturally learning how to do what I've been teaching them. And now they're kind of moving past the trust phase. They know this is something I want to do. It's something I need. Expert. You have clients like this. They're expert. They're at the same level I am, or more.
Yep.
In terms of what they're doing.
Yeah. That's great. That's a great way to apply this.
What you really love is when
Yeah. Yeah.
first they tell everybody.
Right. Yeah.
That's where I want to get them to.
Right. Right. Now that's a great way to apply this model is to your clients and how you help develop them up. Right. Help your understanding that. Yeah. Very good.
Their family and friends and coworkers do the same thing. So
Perfect. Good. Good. So there you go. Here's the last truth for you. When using the right combination of guidance and support, the leader can accelerate the development process of a follower. You can do that and make that happen. There you go. Thank you guys for being here. I think I was on that side. Yeah, awesome. Thanks for your engagement and participation and all that good stuff. Yep, go be a Phase 4 leader. All right. Absolutely.
Great job, Todd. I see a lot of the relevance here at work.
Good.
And I think a lot of people can benefit from hearing this. I've got a lot of people in mind. I'm like, he needs to talk to them. Terrific. Thank you for
You're
doing
welcome.
this.
You're welcome. I'll hang out here for a while if you have any questions. I think there's some feedback forms that you guys have, right?
Yep, and we'll send those straight to Todd so he can hear what we have to say. Praise, negativity. This is our brochure. It includes a new session for December, so we've changed our presenter. And actually, Jeremiah is going to teach our December session, and it's about using video marketing for your small business, web videos and internet, social media, viral videos, creating viral videos. There, you've been tasked.
All right.
So, December 16th is that session. Thank you all for coming.